Interesting one. Uh,
Three, two, one, go.
hello. This is Corey Thompson, creator of Dice Tower Dish and producer of Aboveboard TV.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 331, and we're recording this on August 15th, 2024. Board Games Insider is proud to be powered by Board Game Geek. I'm getting that more angry sound every time. I think that's the way to go with this. It's angry, but it's
Got the
powerful.
the movie trailer voice. Powered by Board Game Geek.
That sounds awesome. So, buddy, yeah, no Ignacy again this week. He did a trip himself. We'll just report on his little trip. He was in
Yeah,
Scotland of all things, right? I mean, that sounds cool. I've
I
never been to
mean,
Scotland.
good for him. I know how much of an effort it is for him to
Yeah,
go on trips like
yeah,
this, and he needs a
yeah.
vacation,
He does.
just some downtime. So that man works insanely hard.
Yeah, and then a shout out to his wife Mary, who's just a lovely person, and she tries to get him to vacation elsewhere, and it's usually a very hard thing for her to do. But yeah, glad that they had a little vacation, so he's dead tired and gonna rest a little bit back in Poland. But Corey, really, what is happening in your life at Above Board TV?
So at Aboveboard TV, we're continuing our D&D campaign. We've
That's
been
awesome.
releasing an episode every Friday. So 3 episodes are online as of this recording. So probably 4 episodes by the time people listen.
Yep.
Uh, Man, we've got 8 people in the campaign, including special guests Becca Scott, Jason Charles Miller. Travis is game mastering, dungeon mastering. It's such a cool world, and there's nothing quite like a bunch of actors and voice actors playing D&D. It's really fun to watch. Um, Also, I've been working on a much delayed and much deserved interview that I did with Ignacy. It's really interesting to do this back in time because I interviewed Ignacy a couple of years ago before I knew him. And now looking back at the things he's talking about, games that came out, games that didn't come out, he talked about everything. And Ignacy's so good at stories. It's just neat looking at it with the now that I know Ignacy well. It's really very cool. Uh, I finished playing Ticket to Ride
Yeah,
Legacy,
baby.
Legends of the West. Oh man, that was fantastic.
Excellent.
It might be my favorite Legacy game. It was so good, beginning to end. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Played it with the family. They all thought it was their favorite Legacy, and we've played about 10 Legacy games at this
Yeah,
point.
that's
So,
a lot of legacy games. I played this with Paula just the beginning of
yeah.
this year, right after I got it from Gen Con last year. I think we waited until sort of the holidays, I think it was this year, and I loved it. It takes Ticket to Ride to a whole nother level. At the beginning, you're playing a variant of Ticket to Ride, and then
Yeah, yeah.
by the time you're at the end, you're playing this pretty complicated thing, and
A
I
lot of
can't.
pieces moving.
There's a lot
And
of moving
there's
parts.
don't give anything
No,
away, but
no, no, no.
and I mean, forgive me, Alan, but I don't like Ticket to Ride. The normal game doesn't catch for me.
you're you're
It's
you're
fine. I get why it is as popular as it is, but I would never really choose to play it.
So listen, so while Alan doesn't run the Gathering of Friends anymore, I believe he has some influence on those that do. So you're out. You're out now. Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Uh,
Keep going
Another
though.
one. So I had a group of designers and developers over the house last week, and got to play the final production copy of Unconscious Mind from Fantasia Games,
Cool.
with the designer Johnny Pack.
Nice.
And oh man, so many moving pieces. It was such a cool game. The art is incredible. It was really cool. And if anyone's followed the campaign of Unconscious Mind, It also comes with a little card game because, quite honestly, they had extra artwork. They hired such tremendous artists. They got a lot of art pieces, so they had extra artwork and designed a card game as an extra. And I worked on the card game, so it was really cool seeing the card game come out as well. You know, if you look through the book, I'm there in the credits. Uh, and it just was an amazing weekend. So I've had a pretty cool week, and hopefully next week will be a pretty cool week too. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That sounds great. Over here at the Podfather of Gaming, I just got back from visiting my mom in New Jersey. 10 days with my mom.
And
Stressful,
you're
let's put it that way.
alive.
And I yeah, there was not a Florida man kills mother. No, there was nothing like that. But it was very stressful, but also very rewarding because I was able to help her out and do certain things that needed to be done in her life. She's
You're
not
such a
not
good son.
yeah, no, I'm not. I'm literally of the this we she has four sons, and I'm literally the worst of the four. But we are a close family, and I needed to help out doing some things. So that was a good, very good visit, but it was very stressful. So now I'm relaxing back in Florida for a little while. I was away for 4 straight weeks, and then really 7 straight weeks, only 2 days at home between that entire thing where I was in Europe 3 and then 2 and crazy. So
Phew.
home for a little while. But of course that's not gonna stay that way because soon we're doing a friends trip to St. Augustine, Florida, with the Phelpses and the Chapmans, and you know them very well, Corey. They're good friends.
Yes.
Good
Oh, I haven't seen them in so long.
good friends of the show, good friends of mine. The Phelpses are our gaming buddies in New Jersey, and the Chapmans live out in Colorado, and they're coming in to do this, which is wonderful. And directly from there, we're going to go to the Dice Tower Retreat, where you are not
Man.
going. I'm very sad about that. And then
Florida's really far away.
it is, I know. Um, and then BGG at sea is after that, followed like immediately. I fly direct right off the cruise ship, and I get to the World Series of board gaming. We'll get to that later on, as we get closer and closer. A couple of quick shout outs here. The Grand Gamers Guild, that's Mark Spector's company. He's a big fan of the show. He's a listener. He's the president of the company, the owner of the company. He's an awesome guy. Tir Nanag, which I forgot the meaning of that in Gaelic. I think it's Gaelic, or yes,
It's the land of
it's
fairies.
the Land of Fairies or something like that. He had huge success with that earlier this year. He's in his second large print run of this game. So I just want to give him a shout out for
Yeah,
congratulations on that.
designed by Isaac Shalev.
Isaac, also friend of the show. We love him. I saw him at Gen Con. He's awesome. Uh, and he's an investor in Play2Z. So give him a shout out, and as well as our good friend Whitney Red Lorraine. Her board game Charcuterie, which is now fulfilled on the Kickstarter, it's now in wide release from Third World Games. So check it out. It is absolutely beautiful with a fantastic theme, and we're going to talk more about theme later in the show. Of I split you choose mechanic, but you're creating your own charcuterie board,
Oh,
which
it's
is
so
like
pretty.
one of the biggest, like, every time I go out, it's like, oh, just hang out and let's get something. Let's get 2 glasses of wine and a charcuterie board. That's like kind of what we do like all the time these days. So it's really pretty and it plays well. And on my first playing, I beat her. Well, actually, I think I tied and she won on a tiebreaker, I think. But okay, but
I
yeah,
I hear she did her very best to let you win, and it almost worked.
it almost worked. No matter what I did, it finally almost worked. So congrats to both of them. And of course, I have to mention the Play2Z Kickstarter, which by the time this drops would have just started. And this is for 23 Knives, a social manipulation game. Please go over to Kickstarter, search for Play to Z or 23 Knives, and you can sign up for the notifications on it and see how it's doing and all that. But I guarantee this game is going to do something because it is different than anything out there. You are literally either voting to keep Caesar in power or to kill Caesar with one of those 23 knives. And you can manipulate the table by seeding cards in various ways. It's really, really great. Fantastic game, and I hope you guys check that out on Kickstarter. Now, let's get to the event deck. All right. So, Corey, you put a bunch
I,
of
I
things in here.
I think I put a bunch of news that you didn't even know about. I mean,
I
because I
don't.
have my finger on the pulse.
Thank you so much. So, what's this thing about Washington State's library? Washington
Yeah,
State Library's tabletop gaming program was awarded almost $250,000 from a national
yeah.
leadership grant. Pretty
This
cool.
is straight from the Washington Secretary of State. There's a press release. Washington State Library's tabletop gaming program awarded $249,500. Cheapskates couldn't go for 250,000. And it's a national leadership grant. I'm joking. This is an amazing thing. So it's basically a grant to the library system in Washington State for them to set up board gaming as a social nexus, to bring people together, bring people to the libraries, and actually use that as a center for community bonding within Washington. This program builds on an ongoing initiative by Washington State Library to support tabletop role-playing games in public, tribal, and community college libraries. So this year, Washington State Library awarded 52 grants to Washington libraries to implement or enhance tabletop role-playing game programs. In March, Wizards of the Coast donated 75 Dungeons and Dragons box sets to the Washington
Nice.
State Library to provide every library system and institutional library in the state with a free gaming kit for patron use. So it's really an amazing story. It's a little bit to dig to get to it. If you search for Washington State Library grant tabletop games, I'm sure you'll be able to find it like I did. But it's just amazing that games are becoming more of an accepted social nexus for everybody, and
Right.
it's our social lubricant of choice. So I
It's
just love that it's becoming
I
formalized.
have I have multiple social lubricants, but besides that, yes, this is absolutely uh the this is absolutely in that category. And this is actually looks like it's more focused on role-playing games, which I am a huge role player. I forgot to
They do
mention.
talk about both. They
Yes,
they talk
yes.
about tabletop gaming in general and role playing and board games in specific.
I really should have given a shout out at the top of the show during my personal segment up there to my good buddy Chad, who's a huge fan of the show. He listens. He doesn't even listen to my normal stuff. He listens to the news. That's what he likes the best. And so, Chad, you're getting a big shout out here because we finished our 4-year, 2-month campaign where we played every week. With some exceptions, of course, and we finally finished this campaign. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's wonderful. So, thank you to him and role playing is, as you said, it's a great glue to bring people together, and it's really excelled during the pandemic years because it was a way to everybody could look at each other, and it was much easier to do that than do board gaming, and until there's a lot of board game arena then became into its own and stuff like that. So fantastic, man, that was really a good one. So we have another very interesting thing here. The huge copyright infringement case, huge, against
So,
AI engines, including Midjourney, which is probably the
yeah.
biggest of the AI engines in use in board gaming, at least. So,
Yeah.
where did you find this one? I bet friend of the show Marion might have found this. Is that right?
Actually, no.
Okay,
I found this one.
okay,
There was some of the people involved in the case were posting about it in social media. I did reach out to Marion for legal eyes to kind of interpret, because what
nice,
I have is literally just the court documents. So this is a case that was posted very recently. So this was filed on August 12th, and it is basically a bunch of artists as the plaintiffs going against quite a few AI image generating companies, including, like you said, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and there's a bunch of them
right,
together. Uh, a couple things to keep in mind. It's huge that there is a lawsuit that exists. However, anybody can sue anybody. So just
yes,
having the existence of a lawsuit doesn't mean that this is really a big deal.
right,
What makes it a big deal is it has passed the first hurdle. There were four things put against the AI companies, and two of them, the AI companies submitted to have it all thrown out, and two of them were kept and two of them were thrown out. So it will go to trial. So the big deal about this is that the companies tried to have it thrown out and did not succeed.
Right.
Uh, Big take homes is Midjourney claims to sue for copyright. Um, the court says that Midjourney what Midjourney actually was arguing is that if you are suing for copyright, you need to give exact details of every single copyright infringement that you have, which would be impossible because an
Right.
AI engine is
Right.
taking jillions and jillions and
Yeah.
jillions. But the court threw that argument out and said you don't need that level of specificity. There were a couple odd ones there. The artists were alleging that because the software company has a copyright on the software, which is the DMCA, the Digital Copyright Act, um, that the software company could claim a copyright on the art in the data set. But that whole argument was thrown out as well. The rest of it, though, was kept. So they have the okay to go ahead and have their lawsuit about copyright infringement.
This is a
So
very
it's a big win for the artists versus the AI, and at the very least, this is setting some sort of precedence for how AI is going to be used. AI is never going to go away.
no.
The Pandora's box is open, it exists, people are going to try to use it. But this will set some precedent about what is okay use and what is not okay use.
Sure, sure. And yeah, it's a very long and complicated document that you have here. There is
I'm trying to parse it out as best I
Yeah.
can.
No,
Like I
you're doing a great
uh,
job because there's all these subclasses because this is a class action
yeah.
suit, right? So it's all of these artists versus all of these AI art generating software companies. So it's like then they have the deviant art damages subclass, the Midjourney named
Yep.
artist subclass. What's the charge against Stability AI? That I believe is Midjourney. I'm not 100% sure there about who.
Stability, I think, runs the database that a lot of
Okay.
these other
Um,
companies used for their training.
then there's they name Runaway AI. They name Midjourney specifically. It's a huge to do. It's filed in the Northern District of California, which is probably a very friendly venue for the artists. So let's see what happens. We'll obviously keep an eye on this. But this is in, as you said, you can sue anybody for anything. Corey, I've filed
Yeah,
lawsuit. Our friend Marion has helped me file lawsuit that on the fact that you cut your hair and your beard, and that was part of the contract that you had to keep that while you're on this show.
I
So
know. I know. I'm
anyway,
only driving numbers down. I just want to say also that the list of artists, there's quite a few artists who are listed as plaintiffs on this case,
yep,
and most of them are board game artists. So it's really interesting. I was just looking up the names within BGG, and I
right,
think all but two are board game artists,
right.
including some Magic the Gathering artists.
Very good. Very interesting. We're going to definitely keep a pulse on this one here. So the next one, this one made absolute national news. I saw this on
Yeah,
CNN or in the Wall Street Journal. I read this article already, but this one came out in Polygon, where we scrape some news from, and it's the international chess world is having a shocking month with two serious allegations emerging in August. So Corey, what do we got going on here?
so the chess world, we always think about chess as that abstract game, someone's grandfather plays it. But in all reality, chess is an intensely popular
Yep.
international sport. There's huge amounts of money on the line. It is treated with the same reverence that we might treat, the big sports in the U.S., football, basketball, things like that. And of course, we had controversy, nearly a year ago,
Oh yeah.
where one of the top players was accused of cheating, and that went absolutely crazy. So what's going
Yeah,
on
wait.
now
Well, let's make
is
sure that people know what that cheating scandal was.
I
The
purposely
allegedly,
skipped
no,
over
no, no,
that.
no, no. We can say that now. We're not on the Dice Tower. So that person was alleged cheating, and he allegedly had anal
No, no,
beads.
no,
Yeah,
no, no.
allegedly. Well,
What it was he was accused of cheating, and simulation models strongly suggested that he was cheating.
getting
So they
signals of
started
some
they
regard.
started just guessing how possibly he could be cheating,
Yes.
and inserted vibrating anal objects were brought up, and that hit national news.
Right. Yeah.
There is no evidence that
There's no
anybody used
actual
this,
evidence that that
but
happened, but it sounds so good.
they did start examining and x-raying uh
The contestants,
high
players.
level
Yeah. All right, so tell
participants.
us about this
So
particular news story.
all
Yes.
right, so two things happened this month. First, a Russian chess player, Amina Abakova, has been temporarily suspended from the Russian Chess Federation after she allegedly attempted to poison her opponent.
That's great.
And there is security footage that she broke open a thermometer and spread mercury on the opponent's side and pieces.
Oh,
So
oh,
it's absolutely insane. The Russian media has said that she's being held by police,
yep.
and she's been banned from
Yeah.
chess. But she tried to kill
Yeah.
somebody.
I mean, even the Russians, and they're not known for their great justice system, have said, no, you can't
Well,
do
they
this.
they
So she's
take murder
suspended.
pretty seriously unless someone important does the murdering.
Yes, yes.
I
Unless
mean,
Putin does the murdering, and therefore that doesn't matter, right? But right. So this is they've got this on video, so she's been suspended. But what's the other one that's out there?
so the other one is the International Chess Federation, which is FIDE, issued a ruling against international chess master Andres Strebkovs, who reportedly sent used condoms and pornographic photos to
Oh,
female chess players,
oh
some of
God.
whom were minors,
Oh my
over a
God's
period of
sakes.
10 years.
So
So the detailed report from FIDE includes at least 14 separate letters, all of which were sent from Latvia, but use different names, including those of other prominent chess
you,
players.
you can't
Oh,
you can't make
so
this you can't make this stuff up. It's like crazy. I mean, how is God, I hope this guy
they
also goes to jail for
well, they confirmed his involvement by DNA analysis. Let's just leave it at that.
yeah, and yeah, that one we will leave at that. Very interesting reporting there, Dr. Thompson. So the last story we have here is about the Embracer Group, who just posted their first quarter. Now they are in a weird fiscal cycle. Their first quarter is like the
Hmm.
calendar's second quarter, so that this makes sense. They just posted their first quarter results, and they were, to say the least, poor, if not extremely poor. Asmodee and Dark Horse Comics' parent Embracer Group showed a loss on lower sales in its fiscal Q1, April to June. The Embracer sales decline was 24%, driven by big drops in PC and console games, which are down 34%, and entertainment and services down 54%. Those declines were
Wow.
attributed to tough comps, people who are also in that space and releasing these games. That's
Other
what that
people
would
did
be.
better things.
Yeah, other people did much better things than their electronics and their entertainment services, and a few new product releases. Within the entertainment and services agreement, sales of Dark Horse Backlist was noted as a revenue driver, led by volumes of Berserk and stronger sales of Avatar: The Last Airbender behind the live-action Netflix series, which is fantastic, by the way, and
That's really
exposure.
weird that they're citing Dark Horse as being the best of them when we've always talked about Dark Horse as being the least significant of all the pieces of
This right.
Embracer.
They're showing them that they actually performed okay in this abysmal thing. But now we get to Asmodee, which of course is what we truly care about, even though we care about it
True.
all because it's all geeky. So, but Asmodee sales were down 5%, not too bad, to 292 million for the quarter. Sales were pressured by lower performance of distributed games in Central Europe and the UK versus a year ago quarter. The company explained growth was strongest in the U.S., according to a report. So U.S. market still doing pretty good. The company noted Star Wars Unlimited in both its discussions of sales drivers and margin growth.
Oh, it's
At,
so hot right now.
right, as they turned an operating profit, an improvement from a year ago's quarter, EBIT, which is essentially net income, or EBITDA, sometimes what's called EBIT, was $1.25 million, a tiny percentage, but it at least was positive versus the $6.82 million loss that Asmodee had a year ago, which is obviously significant, but they did a big write down last year. Despite the modest profit, Asmodee is still generating strong free cash flow by reducing inventory, the company reported. Company-wide, Embracer Group lost $211 million for the quarter, a big swing from the $216 million profit a year ago. So I had conversations at Gen Con with some notable people in the industry who actually were very nervous about all of the bad Embracer slash Asmodee news because of the big debt that Asmodee is going to take on when they split the companies up. This report, by the way, let me take that quick sidestep. This report noted very specifically that by the end of calendar year first quarter, which is the end of their fiscal year, I know that's confusing. So by the end of March 2025, Asmodee will be its own
Yeah.
company, publicly traded once. Well, again, I mean, for the first time, Asmodee alone will be publicly traded, and I'll own a little tiny, tiny bit of stock because I own Embracer, so I'll own all three companies at a lower price for each one.
Sure.
Should be very, very, very interesting. Any commentary there, Dr. Thompson?
This is your world, the
Yep.
financial side of it. It's coming up really quick that we're gonna have an independent Asmodee again. Like you
Yeah.
said, March. So
And
it's
and
interesting.
and other people within Asmodee, I can't name any names, and they weren't talking in any weird ways that they wouldn't mind, but they were saying things like, yeah, no, things are really good now that they've done the consolidations, and they still have access to all the IPs because they have those relationships with Middle Earth Enterprises, with Dark Horse Comics, with all the e-games. So they have these strongest relationship. So who would Middle Earth Enterprises go to for board games first? Obviously, they would go to their friends at Asmodee because they've got such a strong relationship for many
Yep.
years before they were even part of the same company. And now, of course, when they're breaking up, they'll still go to them. So the average gamer is not going to see much. What industry people were saying was that they were worried that all of this would be a bad thing for the industry because if if the biggest company fails, and that's not what's happening, but if the biggest company starts doing very poorly, it potentially could drag down everybody else. So we'll monitor this, of course, but in general, while this news is bad, the Asmodee portion of this news is not horrible.
And remember, they put all of the Embracer Group debt on Asmodee because their feeling is Asmodee can handle it.
Yeah. And as it mentioned in that release there, the free cash flow that Asmodee generates is still strong. That means money that they just generate that they don't need to fund operations. That's what free cash flow is,
Sure.
and it's working great for them. All right. That's all the news that's fit to talk about. Let's get over to strategy and tactics. All right, let's take a bunch of questions here from Amit Jain, who's at Mail Jane. Congratulations, big fan of the show and long time listener. Have listened to all episodes since number one. Got referred by Nick Watkins. He's a good friend of mine.
Uh,
Minor feedback question. I used to love that the episodes were very crisp and to the point, typically 30 to 40 minutes. Shows that there is a good prep work done before the recording. Oh, come on, man. You're going to make fun of us. Most other gaming podcasts tend to ramble a lot, sort of like a stream of consciousness snapshot. Not to my personal taste, but I'm sure others enjoy it. Though off late, it feels that BGI episodes have started running slightly longer than before, closer to 60. Is that true? Is it intentional? Is that the vision going forward, especially with more episodes getting dropped now? Any chance to tighten the ship a bit? Maybe it will even help boost Podfather of gaming status. So let me talk, since obviously I've been here since episode one. Amit, the if you've noticed, if you have been listening since number one, we have added segments to the show, right? Playtesting never existed, right? We never had that. We've added Corey. So there's reasons why we go a little longer. And would I rather go 30 to 40 minutes versus right now we're going about 45 to 50 minutes. That's kind of where we end up stopping. I think that the added interaction with the audience, especially if you're a guild member, and you should be, hopefully you are, and that interaction for playtesting, I think is just works out really well. So it is definitely a thing that we did on purpose, not specifically to make it longer, but specifically to do things better and engage the audience more.
And I will take a little bit of the blame for that. I like to talk. I like to give the color commentary. I like to talk about background on a lot of these things. And of course, Stephen loves to talk. So my job is to interrupt Stephen and add a little bit. That adds a little time to stuff.
You talk too much. Amit then says, why is Star Wars Rebellion not classified as a war game? Well, you know what, Amit? This is a very interesting thing. You can go on to Board Game Geek and suggest an amendment. In fact, it absolutely should be a war game, at least partly. I just
It is in
recently,
its core a
yeah,
two-player.
yeah.
It has all the elements, except that it doesn't have, little cardboard chits where you take your special
No,
device and click
no,
the
but
little trailers
you
off
know,
the corners.
War of the Ring and Dune War for Iraq, just because they have the name war in it, did that make them a war game? No, Star Wars Rebellion is certainly a war game with lots of extra stuff going on, by the way. Great game. Loved playing it for the first time. The battle system is hard to grok a little bit, but
Yeah.
besides that, it just works really well. He also says with an intergalactic conflict, it has all the essential elements of a war game. It even has multiple battles that happen. It's got beautiful land and space units that fight each other. I would argue it's more of a war game than Twilight Struggle. Yeah, which is all
What? Yeah.
political. Yeah,
Twilight Struggle is a war-themed card game.
yeah, I mean, I could see the argument for both of them being war games. It's not a problem. It's, every game can have multiple categories. So is this a publisher FFG decision to not brand it as such? Quick answer: no. You brand it. You do this. We click on those buttons. So everybody out here, you know what? I'm gonna bring it up right now in a browser window to remind myself to go and do this. I want to see
Yeah.
this game as a war game. So there you go. I
There's
mean,
also a lot of overhead if you label something as a war game. There's a certain stereotype and a certain view of a game called a war game, and it brings back GMT memories and ASL memories and things like that. It really has a genre identity that goes beyond just, is it about war? Is it a two-player
right.
fighting? So there's
He
there's more on the overhead.
he said that he pinged BGG about it and asked them about the missing labels, and they just said, just do exactly what I said. Go there and say, I think this is a thing. And if enough people do it, in fact, it is, when he goes there, it says it's checked as war game, but it's not showing up as war game. I'll go check on it, but I think it should be. So I mean, just put pressure on. Not that it matters, but if you want, just keep having people tell BGG it should be a war game. It should be a war game. Amit then says, I know that the rating system on BGG is secret and complicated, likely to avoid the gaming of the system by publishers and designers, pun intended. So, Amit, I'm going to stop right there and say it is absolutely not secret, and it's not particularly complicated. And here's how it works. When a game is posted onto BGG, once it gets to 30 ratings, it's given an actual rating. Now, the secret sauce is that it's considered a Bayesian rating. Now, that's a term that sounds really weird and complicated, but you can look it up. In fact, it's addressed directly in BGG. And Bayesian,
Yep.
Bayesian, something like that. Bayesian ratings mean that a certain number, and
It's
that can be,
weighted by votes. Yeah.
it's weighted by a certain number of extra votes. And that is specifically so that gamers, publishers, nobody can game the system. Now, and the number is specifically 100. So when a game hits 30, 100 5.5s are added. Now, that sounds like if 30 people gave it a 10, all of a sudden 100 5.5s are added. Obviously, it's going to bring it way down. It's going to bring it very close to like 6 probably. But that's on purpose because you don't want 30 friends of the designer, for instance, to just put 10s up there. This makes it so that the community can truly have an impact on that rating. It's not complicated, and this is a known thing. They didn't make it up. This is not all Aldi, Scott Alden, who made this up.
Most rating
Yeah,
systems do this.
you have to do this. Essentially, you have to do this. So that's the whole thing. He adds a lot of stuff here, but that's exactly how it happens. You should rate the games what you think they are, and popular games that 100 ratings. Once like 100,000 people rate a game, those ratings basically go out the window because they're too insignificant to have a huge impact. So
And that's a really big thing is the ratings on BGG are highly, highly, highly dependent on the number of people who
yes,
vote.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
you will not make it into the top 10 or top 100 unless you get a really huge amount of people commenting on the game.
Right,
So it's tough for an unknown, excellent game to get a high rating.
right. Let's take another one here. Andy Bell, he's at Castle Sage. Now that Steven is doing some designing, I'm curious if he has discovered anything about what it's like to sit on that side of the table. Is there anything that he would do differently as a publisher if he was still publishing? I kind of am again with his new insight. The answer is that game design is hard. It's really hard, and getting it all right is hard. So I mean, I've always had the biggest appreciation of the game designs. I did back here behind me. You can see some games that are in the Great Designers series that I created, where I had like 12 games in that series. I would have continued if I continued to work at Stronghold. It's just hard darn work to make it happen. But you reward game designers to the extent that you can. You certainly laud them and you put their name on the box. That's a thing that not everybody gets, but everyone should get, that's for sure. So no, is there anything I
And
would
it's
do
a
different?
relatively recent move.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it didn't happen back in the day at all. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's really what I would say. It's I wouldn't do anything different. I appreciate it, but now that I'm doing this hard work, I don't like to use the W word. It kind of bothers me, so I don't want to do it too much. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's
Retired.
it's right. I'm retired. Big air quotes. All right, everybody. Let's now go over to play testing. So, Corey, last week you asked this very biting question. Why don't you
Oh,
read
I
that
know.
question and we'll see what people are thinking.
So, art and gameplay each play important roles in the enjoyment of a game. So, I wanted you to name the best game you've ever played that has the worst art or look.
We
So,
had a very
yeah,
varied. I mean, it was like I don't know. There was not many answers that are the same. I mean, there's 100,000 games in the database, so you can see that a lot of people are going to say great game, bad art on so many levels. So, um, Peter Tierney said Ascension. That was one of the first modern board games I picked up
sure.
and helped start me down this path. I did not think it had bad art when I picked it up, but I pulled it out recently, and the art does not hold up. A lot of it looks unfinished. So obviously he likes the game quite a bit, but doesn't
And
care for
I
the
was I was just waiting for the terraforming Mars. I thought there would be a huge
boo.
number of terraforming Mars. It's kind of famous for being a really popular game, a well done game, but having this stock photo footage as the art, and some of it kind of laughable.
That was
And yeah,
that was
Eric Lagnabeck, a friend of the show, said, I'm not saying art is bad in any of these examples, but it is, for the most part, rather generic, drab, very, very beige. And he wrote Dominion, Castles of Burgundy, Power Grid, and Terraforming Mars. Great,
thanks so
great
much.
games, personal all-time favorites, but it was not the art that drew me in.
Linda Baldwin, friend of mine from New Jersey, says the original Glory to Rome was ugly as sin and downright silly, but I still prefer it to the ho hum black box edition. So,
That's really an unusual opinion. Most people are dying for that black box and the cartoony one. They hate it.
hmm,
Kevin
interesting.
Martin at Agblade, Surfasaurus Max looks completely ridiculous. However, the game's a lot of fun. And this has been a game I've kind of evangelized that I did not want to play it. And it actually was a friend and designer Daryl Andrews, who threw it on the table in front of me. And it was one of the most fun games I've ever played. And that art is horrible, just terrible.
Surfasaurus Max, and I'm not one of those people who really criticize art because you know what, beauty is in the eye. And my next comment, my next thing from one of the people here are going to say are going to kind of reiterate that. But Surfasaurus Max is literally one of the worst themed and most offensive looking games on the planet. I mean, the color palette. I'm sorry.
It's 1980s
It's
neon, goofy
that's
dinosaurs on surfboards.
that's Pandasaurus, right? Is that who did it?
No,
No.
Loosey Goosey Games
All
is the
right,
publisher. They're a
guys.
German publisher.
Yeah, guys. I mean, really, I don't know who. No, you can't even tell the color difference on a lot because there's got like 7 suits, right? And each suit is a color, and you can't even tell them like apart. It, it's such a
Welcome to my world.
it's such a fail on every level. But Surfasaurus Max is a great game, so I just look right past it and I play Surfasaurus Max.
That's a great
Um,
pick.
One more that I want to do is Ron Graves. He kind of just does it like boom. All board games are beautiful. I love that. I mean, because that's making a statement about people and life and things too. All board games are beautiful. You have to look past the outer layer and love what is beneath the surface. Thank you, Ron. Ron Graves. That was actually beautiful.
Yeah, Karen Hola, very good friend of
Yeah.
the channel. Art is certainly in the eye of the beholder. That said, I really enjoyed City Builder Ancient World by Inside Up Games. Really dislike the art. I demo a lot of games, and this one always gets the same response. Really great game, terrible art. Make gameplay difficult for some.
Yep.
And Karen knows her game. She has been the demo queen at conventions. She knows how to demo a game better than anybody.
Absolutely. 100%. Good friend. Good friend. Thank you, Karen. So Corey, you had no questions for me to pick. So
I
I
did
actually had
like
to.
10 in a
I
row.
know you did, but that doesn't mean this is like, the only thing you do for this show. So you should probably like write more questions.
I've been traveling.
So I wrote the question, and maybe it's a terrible question, and it's probably
It's a
one that we've
terrible
actually.
question.
Thank you. It's probably one we've already taken, but it's
Feel
one of
free to answer, Stephen. This is a terrible question.
that you're allowed to do that, but make sure you do answer it. So the question that I'm proposing, it's thematic versus Euro games. Thematic games versus Euro games. Are you more a fan of thematic games, like games with rich theme and interesting worlds, or a fan of Euro games, like blandly themed games about some random city? So I was giving my opinion right there. I said, seriously, this is a question that has been debated. And generally speaking, it is said that most Euro gamers care less about the theme and more about mechanics, while American style thematic gamers care more about the theme. Where do you stand? So,
So what
Corey,
you're
you know my
saying,
opinion.
Stephen, is you like to play games where you get like 100 six-sided dice, roll them all, and then subtract their defense, and then add their attack, and then add the weather conditions, and then subtract away the proximity, and then take the angle, and then at the end say it's a draw.
That is exactly not correct because that would not be a modern thematic game. But I do like randomness in my games. I don't like, I mean, and back in the day, I like those pure Euros with 100% information just right there on the board and everything like that. But now, no, I want richly themed worlds that that have a certain amount of randomness because life is not a straight line from here to there. There's
Yeah.
always something going to happen. Always give me an event that was not looked for and things. So that is my jam. So Corey, where
And
where do you
we
stand?
are very different on this.
Yeah.
I am 95% mechanics, 5% theme. I tend to not read flavor text on cards. I don't particularly care about why I'm doing what. I don't care about the world that the game takes place in. I'm there to push the cubes around.
That's great. That is really great. So, I mean, we're gonna have this very interesting debate again, but I think this is a fun debate to have. Where do you stand on the whole thing? Um, and I've already put the question in the guild because I'm that good and I can do that. And Corey, you need more questions down here. But in the meantime, the thread is there for you to answer our question to you. So please go to the guild on Board Game Geek and find the play testing thread with this question and answer it. And maybe we'll talk about your answer on the next episode. In the meantime, it's the final scoring. Thank you so much for listening and help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. Do you want to be part of this podcast? You can just ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment by posting them in the correct thread in our Guild on Board Game Geek and answer our question to you from the playtesting segment by going to the Guild on Board Game Geek and looking for the thread with this episode's question. Check out the websites, which are portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, dicetowerdish.com, and play2zgames.com. On social media, please interact with us on Facebook. Like our pages, which are /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, /PodfatherGaming, and /Play2ZGames. Speak directly to the three jamokes on this show on X and Instagram. It's at Portal Games US, at Podfather Gaming, and at Dice Tower Dish. And the YouTube channels are Portal Games Studio, the Podfather of Gaming, and of course, Aboveboard TV. Ignacy alone on TikTok, Portal Games US. We'd really love to see you in person at an upcoming convention. I mentioned a bunch of them that I'll be at, right? It's going to be Dice Tower Retreat. It's then going to be BGG at sea, and then the World Series of Board Gaming. So if you're going to be on any of those, please come by and say you're a fan and you love the show or you hate it and Corey is much better than me. Say whatever is on your mind. I 100% will appreciate it and not kill you. I will not poison your chess pieces with mercury, I promise. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, reach out to him to discuss at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And the great voice you hear doing all of those intros, outros, and in-betweens is that of Ray Greenlee, who can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Corey, anything you want to mention? Because I'm going to go back and mention again that if you're not following the Kickstarter for 23 Knives from Play to Z Games, then you don't love Corey Thompson. You don't love Stephen Bonacore because we are investors in this company. You don't love Zev Schlosinger,
It's
who brought to you
true.
all these
How
amazing
can you
games.
not love Zev?
I know. I mean, I can see you not loving Corey, not loving me, not even
Yeah,
loving
yeah.
Ignacy because he's just a curmudgeon. But
Well, you have to love it, Nasi.
you, if you love cookies, you'll love Ignacy. Who doesn't love them? But anyway, please check out 23 Knives from Play to Z Games, which has just started on Kickstarter by the time you hear this.
Yeah,
That,
you can back it for my birthday,
is that your birthday, August 20th?
22nd.
Oh, my brother's birthday, my number 3 son in the list is on August 20th. So he's the day that this starts. Happy birthday,
Hey.
Harry Jr. He does not listen. And neither does my mother or any of my brothers. And even Paula, who's sitting over in the
And
other room
why
listening, only
would
hears,
they?
yeah, she's now smiling.
She has
Nobody,
to listen to you all the time.
she has to listen to me all the time, but she ignores me and says no to everything I do. Anyway, she's
She's a
laughing over
smart
there.
woman. I like that,
Yeah,
Paula.
she's smart. Goodness. Anyway, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being here with us.
See you, everyone.